Welcome in. Soccer Down here on the road, live from Cincinnati, live from the booth at Nippert Stadium here on the campus of the University of Cincinnati. Getting ready for FC Cincinnati and Atlanta United tonight, 7:30 kick. Mike and I are on the air at 7 o'clock on 92.9 The Game, on the radio.com app, on the Atlanta United app. And we're going to take your questions for a little bit, getting ready for the match.
Is this the first time we've done this on a match day, not at a bar or restaurant?
Yes, this is the first time from the booth.
I mean, we've done it on the shores of Lake Ontario, but also at a restaurant.
We did a hotel room.
We did do a hotel room. Yeah, was that Vancouver? I'm trying to remember. It might have been Vancouver.
Might have been.
Boy, we were in that hotel room a long time. Because it rained the whole time we were up there.
That kind of sucked.
Yeah. Other than that, I mean, we were just talking about it before we came on. I know FCC, they're going to build their own stadium, and that's great, and that'll be really important for their growth as a club, and it'll be important for the league. I am really kind of smitten, though, with Nippert Stadium and this atmosphere here, a very collegiate atmosphere. I mean, it's really like... It reminds me a lot of Athens on a much smaller scale. You know, it's in the middle of campus. In fact, the students were walking through the stadium to change classes. Like, the stadium is literally shoehorned in the middle of some academic buildings, and you can walk through the stadium. It's open before matches to change classes. So I think this is going to be a fun atmosphere tonight. I think this has the potential to maybe become kind of like a second-tier derby game for Atlanta United, because Cincinnati is not that far of a car trip. It's only about 6.5 hours, depending on where you live in Metro Atlanta.
You drive faster than me.
Well, it also depends on where you're coming from.
That's
if you're
true.
coming from the south side, it's a solid 7. If you're coming from where I live, it's probably closer to 6.5.
You still drive faster than me.
Yeah. But I think the other thing, too, you know, Cincinnati reminds me a lot of Atlanta as a city in many ways. And I understand it's in the state of Ohio, but it's across the river from a southern state in Kentucky. Mm-hmm. It's just got like a very southern, very young, modern feel. And I look forward to FC Cincinnati becoming more competitive in this league. And I don't think it's going to take them too long, because this could become, I think, a second-tier rivalry for Atlanta United, and one that we're going to look forward to every year.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is an FC Cincinnati team that I think came in with some ideas, very minimal, about what they would do when they came to MLS, and it didn't pan out, and they've had to readjust really midstream.
Yeah, I almost wonder if they came in too fast. Like, their success in USL put them on the fast track to come in the league, and maybe, I don't know if this is cautionary, and Nashville is kind of at the end of the process now, but right. I don't know if it's cautionary for, say, St. Louis, where there is a USL championship infrastructure.
But they'll be separate. They're different, because it's not going to be St. Louis FC coming up.
That's true.
Nashville, I'm sure, learned a lot here from this, and I think they've made some course corrections already. It's tough. It's tough, and we saw Minnesota go through it. It's almost easier in some ways to come in with that blank slate, because then you don't have players that you have emotional ties to that you feel like can make the move, and they can't.
Or managers. I mean, Alan Koch might not have been the right guy for this.
And that was the scuttlebutt coming in, was that this really wasn't the fit for him, but you stuck with him, and he showed some early results and promise. This team in month 1 was competitive. I think he kind of lost his way quickly after that, and then the talent gap became an issue. I think they missed on some acquisitions, and it started to show. And now you've come in and you've changed over your whole setup. You brought in Gerard Niekamp as a general manager. You brought in Ron Jans as a manager. You have a longer-term plan now of being competitive next year in terms of being in the playoffs. MLS Cup the following year. You have your new stadium that will be open at that time. Now it feels like, okay, you can measure progress. I don't know what those benchmarks were coming in. I don't know if there was a checklist, and that's a little bit of the problem.
Yeah, but here's the thing. They're finishing strongly.
Yeah.
And they have a chance to be a real spoiler in the Eastern Conference, because they have a chance, first of all, to go on a run. You know, they're coming off the win over Montreal. Tonight, we hope, will be difficult for them. But then, home to Chicago and Orlando and at DC on decision day, those are their final 3 matches. I could see them getting 6 points out of that, maybe even more. And, if Chicago comes in here and loses or Orlando comes in here and loses, that could be their knockout punch.
Oh, that is their knockout punch, for sure.
So Cincinnati has a chance here to kind of continue their ascension. They've been better the last couple weeks, and they can do just enough to really be a spoiler, and, for that matter, be a spoiler for Atlanta United. If Atlanta United comes out of this tonight with anything less than 3 points, they're in tremendous trouble, almost an impossibility to get the number 1 seed in the East. They're in good shape to get a top 3 seed in a home game, but the number 1 seed would be gone if you don't get a win tonight. So it's not as though Cincinnati comes in here with nothing to play for. They come in here with nothing to lose, and that to me is a little bit scary.
It can be. They're also going to be missing a lot of pieces tonight. Kendall Waston out with a red card suspension. Alan Cruz, according to a video from FC Cincinnati's Twitter account with Galerter and Alex Steck talking about the game. Alan Cruz was mentioned as being out, and Darren Maddox was mentioned as being out for the rest of the year. Mm-hmm. They were both listed as questionable on the injury report coming in. So that's 3 changes from a team that had 6 changes going into Montreal. What do they do at center back is a big question. I'm expecting Haglund to go back there. He's captained this team a few times this season, but we did see at one point this season, very recently, Greg Garza play as a center back.
Yeah.
And that would be something that Atlanta United would like to see because they're going to be able to attack that.
No doubt. Haglund only played 1 minute in Montreal, came off the bench.
Yeah.
That's one thing that they've been able to do a little bit, and some of it's forced because of injuries, but they have been able to rotate a little bit. Atlanta United, I don't think will rotate much tonight. And, look, you played Saturday, you traveled yesterday, you're playing again tonight, you'll travel tomorrow, you got a big home game again on Saturday. You don't love the match compression right now. You are coming off a break, so hopefully this isn't going to affect you the same way it was in August, but that is something to keep in mind. I think, if it's Haglund tonight, if it's a guy like Victor Ulloa, who didn't play at all in Montreal, if it's someone like Justin Hoyt, who didn't play in Montreal, Caleb Stanko didn't play in Montreal. There are a lot of guys that didn't play in Montreal that could be running at Atlanta United with some fresher legs tonight, especially in the second half, and that's going to be something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, Stanko was unavailable for Montreal with a knee injury. Roland Lamah was listed as out with an illness. Derek Etienne was unavailable with a hamstring. So who will be available for Cincinnati? It's a big question, and it's a little difficult for Atlanta United. And Frank DeBoer mentioned this yesterday. It's a little hard to prepare because you don't know what you're going to see. I think Cincinnati will take some lessons from what Columbus did on the weekend. They're going to try to attack down the flanks with speed behind Atlanta's wingbacks. And Ron Jans has managed 11 times against Frank DeBoer in the Eredivisie. And Frank DeBoer's had the better of that matchup over the years. He was at a bigger club as well.
Right.
But Jans, the 2 biggest wins in his coaching career were against Ajax in games with trophies on the line. So he's done it before. Can he pull an upset tonight? I think a lot of it comes down to a player like Emmanuel Ledesma. When you look at Ledesma, he's one of the guys who comes up from the USL team with FC Cincinnati, and he's a skilled player. He's a bit of that talisman kind of figure. Like, if he's playing well and they're playing through him, they can be very difficult to deal with. He can score, he can assist. He's a player who I think they didn't use enough early on.
Yeah. If Maddox is out, do they change shape? Because what would they do up top without him? Do they go to a 3-5-2? Do they try to
don't
play
have the center backs for a 3-5-2?
Right. So that puts them in a really, really tricky spot. Because Waston's really their best pure striker.
No, Waston's center back.
Or, I'm sorry, Maddox.
Maddox.
Yeah, the other...
because Adi's out. So
right.
You're probably... You've got a couple different ways, and I'm very curious to see what Jans does. You've got Rashawn Daly, who was a super draft pick. He's got 7 starts on the year. He has a goal. He's played a good bit in USL. You might have to turn to him. You could play Ledesma as that forward, and he plays a little bit more like a false 9 dropping in. But then the question is, how do you replace Cruz behind him? Do you push Frankie Amaya, the rookie, up a little bit? He's actually found a pretty good home sitting deeper in the formation than I expected. Are you going to, is Stanko going to be available to come in? That might work.
But we're talking about a lot of rookies.
That's a lot of rotation, a lot of young players. I think you probably lean on a guy like Ledesma tonight. Okay. A guy who's been around the block a little bit.
Want to take some questions?
Let's do it.
Chris Ashley has been waiting patiently for us to come on. Thank you, Chris. We've actually gotten a couple questions to this effect. Chris and also Nathan Pugh. Chris wants to know, do you think Atlanta has a realistic chance to get the number 1 slot for a first-round bye? What has to happen? Nathan Pugh says, I don't think the top seed is possible, but let's go over what needs to happen.
Well, you got to win out. I mean, let's start
there. If you don't win out, it would be it's still mathematically possible, but very, very unrealistic.
Yeah. You got to win out to put the pressure on.
Right.
I think anything less than that, you're looking for miracles.
Now, could happen. Cincinnati, San Jose, New York City, Montreal, New England. You can do that.
No, absolutely.
You've had harder stretches than that this year.
Well, let's go from the NYC perspective. So you beat them. That takes 3 points away from them. You catch 3 points up on them.
They would need another loss.
Okay.
Now, they have 3 road matches and the home match against Atlanta United. Starting this weekend at Dallas. They end at Philadelphia on decision day. Mm-hmm. Could lose both of those, could win both of those. New York City's been good on the road this year. They've been excellent at Yankee Stadium, but they've been good on the road. The other road match is New England. Mm-hmm. Again, a winnable match, a losable match. It feels a little bit like what Atlanta United's going to come up on here, and it starts tonight. But, I wouldn't be shocked if San Jose got them on Saturday. I wouldn't be shocked if New England got them on decision day. So New York City has to lose a match other than the match to Atlanta United for Atlanta United to catch them. If Atlanta United does not win at Yankee Stadium a week from tonight, 6-point swing, it's pretty much over for Atlanta United. They at best would be the number 2 seed.
Well, yeah, let's go from a numbers perspective. If Atlanta wins out, they get to 63 points.
Correct.
That means NYC would need 3 more points to tie, and if they tie it, they would not win the tiebreaker, so they've got to get 7 points if Atlanta wins out. They would have 3 games outside of the Atlanta game to get those 7 points.
Right. Now, Philadelphia...
That's 2 wins and a draw.
It could happen.
It could happen.
Philadelphia is also in play, but again,
yeah.
Atlanta United is on pace to end with more wins than Philadelphia, and that's... Atlanta United's got the ace in a tiebreaker right now, because if everything plays out where Atlanta United wins out, they're going to have more wins, which is the first tiebreaker, than New York City and Philadelphia. Philadelphia is about to go into a hell week where they're going to play at Red Bulls, then go all the way across the country a week from tonight, play San Jose, come all the way back across the country to Philadelphia, and then fly to Columbus and play there the following Saturday. Then they're at home against New York City on decision day. Now, every time we count out Philadelphia and think, okay, this is the time where they're finally going to falter, they never really seem to. Mm-hmm. But they've been really, really good at home and somewhat more ordinary on the road. And that's where these 3 road matches in 8 days, I think, could bring Philadelphia back down to earth a little bit. All Atlanta United would need, if they are to win out, to jump Philadelphia, is for Philadelphia to drop points in one match. That's it.
Yeah, they would have to win out
to
trump it.
If Atlanta United wins out.
Right.
And again, it comes back to the wins. The number of wins Atlanta United would have the tiebreaker. A lot of people don't understand. It has nothing to do with head-to-head. No. Goal difference is in play, but that's further down on the tiebreak tree. It's the number of wins first. So actually, to Nathan and to Chris's point, I understand where it looks daunting, but in reality, you're still kind of in control of this, because if you win at Yankee Stadium, you have to like the odds that New York City is going to drop points somewhere else. If you don't win at Yankee Stadium, it's over. But at least you have that under your control.
Yeah, the tricky thing is going to be Philly hosting NYC on the final day. That's where there's going to be some scoreboard watching on that end of the table. There's going to be scoreboard watching on the other end of the table, too, with New England at Mercedes-Benz, because you've got two other games that could kind of be like play-in games in some ways, with Chicago in Orlando and Red Bulls hosting Montreal. Yeah, I think that's right. It's going to get complicated, and for Atlanta, you just have to put your head down and just have to grab points everywhere you can right now. You have to win out to put pressure on everybody else.
Okay, Alex wants to know, do you think Cincinnati will play conservatively and defensively tonight?
Those are two different things. I think they play conservatively because I think that's what suits them right now. I don't think they necessarily play defensively because, and this is just kind of my soccer language, I equate that more with bunkering and being negative. And I don't think you're going to do that at home because you have nothing to lose. Right. If Cincinnati loses tonight, it doesn't really change their season in any way. They're going to try to entertain. They're going to have a way to try to put goals on the board. But they're not going to be reckless about it. They know that, and this is, again, after what happened on Saturday, there's a bit of a blueprint. And this is a big factor because these teams pay attention to these games. And when you see what Columbus did, if you're Cincinnati, you're like, okay, can we replicate that? Can we sit two central midfielders deeper? Can we have our back four stay home a little bit more? And when we win the ball, can we transition very quickly down the flanks? Yeah, that's doable. That's doable on short-term notice. So I think you're going to see Cincinnati try to replicate that. What Atlanta has to do, if Cincinnati does sit a little more and look for that aspect of their game, Atlanta just has to be patient. They can't force anything, and something we talked about on stoppage time yesterday, they have to finish their forays into the final third. And when you finish it, you're finishing it with a shot, preferably on goal, but a shot to where it's not a turnover out in front and Harrison Awful can take the one touch and break your line with one touch to break it and in a pass to break everything else. You've got to finish those chances. You can't have those giveaways in the middle of the field. You can't have reckless passes that lead to opportunities going the other way.
Five Stripes fan wants to know if Jeff and Tito will get the start tonight. He also wants to know if we know that El Tesoro has covered their patio.
Oh, that's good news.
That is good news.
I went to El Tesoro. I went by El Tesoro over the weekend, and I realized that I need to call in my order because it was an hour wait. Ooh. They were that full.
Wow.
The food's that good.
Yeah.
But wow. Yeah, I need to call it in ahead of time next time. I need to go back to El Tesoro. That's what I need to do. All right, so
Jeff and Tito.
It's possible. I mean, we've talked about the midfield needing some definition. I think Jeff provides that from a defensive standpoint. I think if he does start, then that solves a little bit of that issue. If he doesn't, then you're asking Remedi or Nagbe to be a little more defined as the six. Tito, the question is the fitness at this point, and not so much from a just physical fitness, like can he run for 90 minutes. Is he match fit to get you deep into this match? And does he provide enough of a counterbalance to what Joseph gives you? Does he replace Pitti, or does he play with Joseph and Pitti? Those are some big questions, because in the 3-5-2, it's not as easy of a fit to get Tito on the field.
Yeah, the thing I keep coming back to with Tito is post-injury in New York against Red Bulls, I don't think he has shown you at any point that he can give you 90 minutes of starting quality soccer. I also think that there's a large benefit to being able to play Tito as a spark off your bench. And kind of similar to Saturday when you feel like you need that desperation goal. And here again is a situation tonight where, much like Saturday, a draw is not going to help you at all. You got to go out and get a win tonight. Where if it is 1-1 in the 85th minute, you love to bring in a guy like Tito with fresh legs who can give you that spark, give you that energy, and can create that desperation goal. So we all love Tito. I think Tito's going to be a part of whatever's to come the rest of this season, and in the postseason he's going to be vital. I don't think he's quite there yet as a guy that you can reliably start.
I think the fit's very difficult, honestly. In the 3-5-2, I know Frank DeBoer said that Tito's minutes, he's competing with Pitti to win those minutes. I don't know how well that works with Joseph and Tito together. I think they're pretty similar in the types of spaces they want to occupy. I think, honestly, Tito would be the option if Joseph can't start, and that's a little bit more of a natural fit. We've seen over the years Joseph and Tito play together up top in either a 4-4-2 or a 3-5-2, and it hasn't necessarily worked that well. I think Tito is best suited to playing out of a 4-3-3 with this team, but that's not what has been effective as of late.
Mr. Green, other than Greg Garza, if you could steal one FC Cincinnati player and place him in the Atlanta United 18, who would he be?
I think Ledesma would be a great fit. Culturally, obviously, being an Argentine, I think he fits right into the group very well. I think his type of talent, having a veteran that you could bring in off the bench from an attacking perspective in that scenario, not a speed guy like Tito, not a younger player like Brandon Vasquez, but a veteran kind of wily. It'd be nice to have something like that. I think over the years, you're going to be looking at a player like Frankie Amaya. Amaya's been impressive. When we looked at the draft and him coming in, I thought he'd be a little bit more of an attacking player, maybe a little bit of a playmaker, and he might grow into that, but he's been really scrappy defensively and looked a little bit more like an 8. He's been getting a lot of starts lately, too, because he was a guy that was just not seeing the field. He was out on loan early in the season. Amaya is a special talent. That's why you go number 1. Alan Cruz is another one I really like, and he's probably not going to play tonight, but Cruz coming from Herediano, breaking into the Costa Rican national team, he's an 8 who can cover a ton of ground. It would just be a natural fit.
They feel like they have a lot of intriguing prospects, like an Andrew Gutmann, for example, who played or was with Celtic on loan from Celtic, but Chicago had his rights. Got to play a full 90 a couple weeks ago. Rashawn Dolly is someone that you've talked about, someone who's 6'2", 200 pounds, a bigger guy, size-wise, someone that I think could be an asset for Atlanta United because they just don't have players that big. But I don't think there's any doubt about it. I mean, you look at the quality of Atlanta United's 23, forget the 18. You look at their quality of the 23. Boy, oh boy, you would really struggle to find more than a very small handful of players on the Cincinnati roster that could step in and play with Atlanta United.
To step into the 18 right now, Ledesma would be the one because he's a veteran attacking presence off the bench, and that's something Atlanta doesn't necessarily have.
That's it for questions. Nick Alifi says the hot seat under Zidane just went nuclear.
Yeah.
Guessing they lost.
3-0 to PSG.
Well,
Atletico and Juve 2-2, and the description is bonkers.
Okay.
So I'll be checking some highlights when we're done. I know that much. It's Champions League's been a lot of fun. There's been some great goals in it. Tottenham struggled in Greece today. It's fun to see that level and then see a game like tonight where I think it's going to be a fairly entertaining one. I really do. I don't expect Cincinnati to come in and bunker. I don't think they have the defense to do it. Yeah. But I think they're going to be smart and organized in how they attack, and they're not going to get too expansive. They're going to be careful.
I just want to see the response from Atlanta United.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for.
And Brad Guzan used the term earlier this week on 92.9 The Game that they had to look at themselves in the mirror. What happened last week is not acceptable from the standpoint of, if training was not as intense as it needed to be, if the approach was not as intense as it needed to be, you can't afford to be doing that in a playoff race where you had control of the East, you had control of the number 1 seed, and you just kind of coughed it away. Columbus is good. I mean, take nothing away from them.
Much better than they were.
Yeah, I mean, I don't look at it in the same vein as the draw that Atlanta United had against Cincinnati in March, the 5-0 loss or 5-1 loss they had in Chicago in July. I mean, those were just complete stinkers. I think Atlanta United got outplayed by a good team for the final 70 minutes in that match on Saturday. But I will be anxious to see the response tonight because they were challenged a little bit by their coach. They were challenged a little bit by some of their own players. The comments that Julian Gressel made after the game, kind of parroted by others on Saturday and later on in the weekend and early this week, let's see what the response is tonight. I hope to see a determined, crisp, sharp Atlanta United in the early going of this match tonight. Whatever the final scoreline is, doesn't really concern me that much. I just want to see them play better than they played on Saturday. And if they do that, I'll feel pretty good.
At this point in the year, it's not about style points. It's about the scoreboard and who's on top at the end of it. And however Atlanta United gets 3 points tonight, they have to get 3 points.
Right.
And they have to carry that momentum into the Benz on Saturday with San Jose coming to town. There's a couple other matchups in the league tonight after us. The Red Bulls are in Portland. That's one to keep an eye on in the Eastern Conference race. And then Dallas is in Seattle. That's one to keep an eye on, too, because Dallas hosts NYC on the weekend. If Dallas gets a little momentum after a bad loss in Chicago, if they get a win tonight or get a point, they're going to be pretty motivated on the weekend. If they get a loss, they're going to be desperate on the weekend because they might miss the playoffs if they lose in Seattle. So keep an eye on those. It's a kind of a strange night with only 3 matches, but 3 really important matches in the playoff race. We'll be back tomorrow, not in the normal time slot because there's travel and stuff. So it'll be a 6 o'clock show, 6 to 8 tomorrow evening. You can listen on the app. You can listen on Spreaker. You can listen on soccerdownhere.net. You can go ahead and send us questions, too, for an Overreaction Thursday tonight as you're watching the game. As things pop up, as you're listening to the full-time report on 92.9 The Game and radio.com and the Atlanta United app, you can send us some questions there. We'll get into them tonight. We'll get into them on SDH tomorrow. Thanks, y'all. Appreciate it for listening. Mucha plata, y'all.